In chapter 1127, it was revealed that Luffy and his crew are in the mysterious castle called Big Stain, and there's a flag with a rather striking symbol flying above it. So, what exactly is this symbol? To be frank, I believe it's that symbol. Yes, it's the same mark that Enel discovered in the ancient city of Birka on the moon. The symbol consists of a circle with a distinct mark in the center. Surrounding it are 4 spear-like shapes and 4 arrow-like designs. Additionally, if you look closely at the city on the moon, you'll notice many round protrusions that resemble Lego blocks along with unnaturally angular structures. Yeah, in my opinion, these Lego block-like structures found in this mysterious country might have been brought from the moon. There are actually a lot of clues that led me to this conclusion, and I'll introduce all of them in this video. Hi, I'm Luna Pena and the owner of the channel Dusk, and I'm a Japanese translator. I have experience translating a particular manga and submitting it to the publisher, so I analyze One Piece from that perspective as well. Now, let's jump right into unraveling the mystery of this mysterious country, in Warland. This adventure in the mysterious land started with Nami. Here. For some reason, Nami's image country is Sweden. Yes, the Nordic country. So it makes perfect sense that Nami plays a key role in the adventure that takes place in Elbaf, a land heavily influenced by the Nordic elements. Moreover, Nami once almost got taken to the moon city Birka by Enel, who hails from Birka. Interestingly, Sweden has a UNESCO World Heritage Site called Birka, which is one of the most important archaeological sites related to the Viking era. This connection between Big Stain Castle and the Moon City seems to be subtly hinted at. We talked in a video on the channel Dusk. I'm going to explore the possibility that Nami might actually from the moon, so be sure to check it out after watching this video. I know, you might be wondering like this. Why has the technology from the moon been passed down to this mysterious country? Yeah, just as Enel traveled from Skypiea to the moon, it's reasonable to imagine that if one were to come from the moon to the blue planet, they would first land on the Sky Island. In fact, the name of the ancient city of Birka on the moon was also used for the Sky Island where Enel was born, you remember? Which proves this point. Now, when the Straw Hat crew descended from the Skypiea to the surface, you remember this scene? They used taco balloon, octopus balloon. But I believe there's a route that connects Elbaf to both the Sky Island and the surface world. If you look closely at the scene from Elbaf, you can see something like a shadow, which might be the high west peak leading to the Sky Island, or hidden route similar to the one Rouge's pirate crew used to reach Sky Island. In fact, Rouge is the only member of the worst generation who hasn't yet interacted with the Straw Hat pirate. It's almost certain that they'll meet him in Warland. Moreover, the connection between Elbaf and the Sky Island is hinted at the various ways. First, one of the giants mentioned the Sky Islands, which were generally unknown to the public. Bonnie also told Kuma, the Sky Islands are close to the sun, so maybe Nika is there. This suggests that even the giants might believe that Nika resides on the Sky Island. Additionally, on the map of Skypiea, there's a figure that resembles a giant. Yes, this strongly implies that even the giants may have descended from the Sky Island to Elbaf in the past. In fact, also Zunisha likes apple from the Sky Island. It's possible that giant from a Sky Island. There's also another clue linking Elbaf to the Sky Island. It's not just that giants live there. The entire island itself is massive, as are the creatures that inhabit it. Do you remember another island where unusually large fauna and fauna thrived? Yes, it's the verse of Skypiea. Although verse was originally part of Jaya, the plants and animals in the part of Jaya that was sent to the Sky Island grew much larger than those in the forest still on the ground, Jaya. Zoro was curious about this phenomenon and Robin explained like this. It's probably because of the components that make up the sea clouds and island clouds. The environment surrounding this sky island seems to have force that makes plants and animals grow at unusual rate. That component is likely pyroblowing. This suggests that Elbaf might also have an environment similar to Earth, rich in pyroblowing, which is present in sea clouds and island clouds. So, as we can see, there's a deep connection between the Sky Islands and Elbaf, with the Sky Islands possibly serving as a midpoint on the way to the moon. With that in mind, it's not surprising that moon technology might be used in the mysterious Lego-like country somewhere in Warland. Additionally, one of my Patreon members shared an interesting theory. They suggested that the giant tree introduced in the chapter 1127 is named Yggdrasil. Could it be that the place where Luffy and his crew are currently located in a country that exists on the top of massive tree, similar to Midgard? And perhaps this giant tree is the same from the Elbaf that appeared in the Big Mom flashback. This theory seems to be quite on point, and if it turns out to be true, it would further support my hypothesis that the Lego-like structures were brought from the moon. Yeah, like this, I often feature questions and theories from my Patreon members like this. So, if you are interested, feel free to check out my Patreon pages. I also occasionally post translations of Bible Guard and the One Piece magazines for free. By the way, before Saturn's death, he stopped the Marines from chasing Luffy all the way to Elbaf. I believe this is because the five elders don't want the Navy to discover the route to the sky that exists in Elbaf. Yeah, if that route were exposed and people started traveling to the sky, it would become difficult for five elders to keep everything under their control. Additionally, the illusion of the celestial dragons who live high above the red line and are worshipped as gods could be shattered. Another intriguing part of this story is Chopper. Yeah, a raccoon dog. In the previous chapter, in this scene, here, we didn't see Chopper anywhere in Great A League, which suggests that he may have already landed in Warland. The giants of Elbaf are often associated with the elements of the Norse mythology, and when we think of reindeer, yeah, from Chopper's animal, we typically think of Lapland in Finland. Yes, Nordic country. This makes me wonder if Chopper has been captured by the giants and it's either being kept as a pet or even revered as a god. We've seen animals being worshipped in the chapter 1127. For example, the ear god was a giant rabbit, and the massive cat that appeared in the big stone castle wore a crown. Yeah, indicating that the animals are regarded as sacred beings. If Chopper were to use his monster point, he'd not only match the size of that giant cat, but possibly even surpass it. And since he can talk, there's a good chance that giants might start worshipping him as well. If that happens, he could be revered as a horn god, or since he's reindeer, possibly even the god of rain. Yeah, earlier I mentioned the connection between Elbaf and Moon City, and I think might tie into Chopper's devil fruit. I believe Chopper's devil fruit is actually the Hito Hito no Mi model moon people. Yeah, it's the cover of chapter 1113. We saw Chopper depicted multiple times as like chess pawns. This remind you of anything? Yes, the robots that were created with the moon technology from Tsukimi Hakase. Yeah, Dr. Tsukimi. And their appearance somewhat resembled Chopper's beast human transformation. Yeah, if hypothetically the devil fruit were created by the people of the moon, it would make sense for this fruit to simply be called Hito Hito no Mi. When human eats zone type devil fruit, they usually have just 3 basic transformation forms. This is also true for Chopper, who ate the devil fruit Hito Hito no Mi, turns animal into humans. These 3 forms seems to be a standard. However, Chopper can use Rumble Ball to transform into 7 different forms. I believe this is because Kureha knew something about the advanced medical technology of the ancient civilization from 800 years ago. It's likely that advanced technology developed during the Void Century was the result of ancient lunar technology being brought to the Earth, a blue planet in the world of One Piece. We know for a fact that they come to the blue planet. It's highly possible that their advanced science and technology, including the creation of the devil fruit, were introduced by these ancient people. Even with the technology of today's Vegapunk, ancient energy cannot be fully replicated, and similarly, no new devil fruits are being created. And I believe the reason Kureha was able to alter the transformation wavelengths of Chopper's devil fruit is that she had knowledge of medical technology on par with the technology used to create devil fruits. And in her room, you can even see artifacts like skulls that resemble those of the Shandians. It wouldn't be surprising if some of the books in her vast collection contain the knowledge of the medical technology from the great ancient kingdom. Additionally, I think it's significant that Hiruluk saw cherry blossom in the West Blue. What else in the West Blue? Yes, Ohara. Hiruluk was thief in the West Blue, and after seeing cherry blossoms, he becomes interested in medicine and the doctor. For me, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that he might have stopped by Ohara, stolen a book on the advanced medicine development during the Void Century from the library, and began studying it, just like seeing where Nami steal a book. Dr. Kureha's involvement with Hiruluk, who was known as the Quack Doctor, might have been because she was interested in the book he had stolen from Ohara. After his 2 years of training in the Torino Kingdom, Chopper can now freely transform into 6 different forms without needing the Rumble Ball. Do you remember why? It's thanks to the application of the pharmacology passed down in the Torino Kingdom. In fact, there are several hints suggesting that this kingdom also inherited technology from the Void Century. First, their appearance closely resembled that of the Shandians. Since the Shandians were the protectors of the Poneglyph, it's clear that they had a connection to the great ancient kingdom. By the way, now that the world is sinking into the sea, Viper's world, the earth never loses, have taken an even deeper meaning. Anyway, Additionally, the Shandians worship the sun god, who is almost certainly Nika. Their clothing also has similarities to Nika, and the fact that the people of the Torino kingdom wield spears is another nod to Nika. With all of these connections, it wouldn't be surprising if the medical technology or pharmacology of the Great Kingdom had been passed to this country as well. Following this hypothesis, by utilizing the ancient lunar technology, Chopper was able to manipulate the transformation points of the devil fruit without needing the rumble ball. Furthermore, the medicine that Chopper gave to Beppo, which allowed him to enter his Suron form without the full moon, was likely another application of the lunar technology passed down in Torino Kingdom. This brings up an interesting possibility for the mysterious country we've seen now. Chopper might be revered as a god, and through this, he could gain new knowledge passed down from the boy's century, leading to his growth as a doctor. For me, it's very important because up until now, when the new crew members have joined the Straw Hat Pirates, they've been introduced with special titles. However, Chopper, Robin, and Jinbei have not yet received their official titles as crew members. For Zoro, first person, for Nami, a second person, like this. Thus, it's entirely possible that in Elbaf, Robin will reunite with Soul, and Chopper will master even greater medical knowledge, finally earning their title as the 5th and 6th crew members. Now, I'd like to tell you another thing. In the Skypiea flashback, we saw the story of Kalgara and Noland. Noland was able to save the lives of the Shandians, who relied heavily on their faith, by introducing them to medicine. As a result, Kalgara stopped worshipping the giant snake as a god, and simply referred it as a snake. In this current storyline, Luffy has eaten the giant rabbit that was revered as a ear god. It might be Chopper's role as doctor to convince the people that this is not a god, but just a rabbit. Now, the new adventure has just begun, and we are still in the stage of full of mysteries, so I'd love to hear your thoughts and perspectives. By the way, there's something I'd like to share just with those of you watching right now. Previously, I hosted a project on X where I submitted questions to Oda-Sensei, but there were a few people who complained about the questions I selected. So, I'm thinking of changing the way I do things moving forward. Since X has become a bit unruly, I plan to host those events through YouTube and Patreon, where community is a bit more respectful. So, it was recently announced that Volume 110 will be released on November 1st. So, after that, I am planning to collect questions for Volume 111. So, please start thinking about your questions for Oda-Sensei. With that said, my next post will likely be the explanation video for the chapter 1128. Okay, now see you next time.